Chris, all right, welcome. Okay, Chris, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me start by asking the kind of the basic question. Make the case for innovation.
Look around you. Look around you. Look at your tables. Just look. Everything you see around you, everything you smell, touch, taste, the food you ate this morning, it all comes through somebody who discovered it, developed it, and commercialized it. That's the process of innovation. Even the air we're breathing in this room is coming through an HVAC system that's a result of decades of innovation and probably scores of patents, teams of dozens and hundreds around the world. And that's just the air we're breathing. Imagine what else is here.
Go ahead.
If we could bring up, I have a slide of big fish here. I was at a gathering of highly creative people in Lancaster not too long ago at the Longs Park Arts and Crafts Festival. You might have been there a time or two, and saw this, and I said, "Oh my goodness, that's what management feels like to me." I don't know about you, but I'm shooting those little fish. I'm shooting those little fish every day. I'm pounding away, and I know there's a big fish someplace in my pond, and it's either going to be hunting me or maybe I could hunt it, but. Innovation is in large part an opportunity to lean back, think about what's going on in our world, maybe get out a little bit ahead of it, and decide what we're going to do about it. Now, hopefully, it'll help us. If we could, we had lunch the other day, and I put this question up on the slide. So if we could get the slide back for 1 second, there's a question at the top of it, which is essentially, what percentage of products once launched succeed? Now, this is a little bit of an innovation IQ test. Talk among yourselves for a second. What percentage of products once launched succeed? Ask each other. Come up with a number. I hear 5. 20. I hear 2. What? 9. Anybody else? What are you guys talking about over there? What? Okay. 5, 2, 9, those are about the kinds of numbers that I often hear in something like this. I did hear 120, that was wonderful. Very optimistic of you. The truth is that we succeed about 60% of the time once we launch a product. And that data is very consistent over the last 55 years. I've got the research to back it up in over 20 studies. If you'd like to look at it, I'd be happy to go over with it. The truth is, when we decide to make a job of innovation, it's like our other jobs. We're pretty good at it. And that's pretty good news. Innovation is important, and we're good at it.
Chris, I think as a community or as a society, we're in danger of making innovation a buzzword. You hear it everywhere you go anymore as something to express different and new, et cetera. But yet few people actually, I think, successfully define it. Can you take a shot at defining innovation?
Sure, Tom. First of all, I'm not too worried about it being a buzzword. We're coming up on the 500th anniversary of Leonardo da Vinci's developing his process for innovation, which he promoted broadly 500 years ago. So if it's a buzzword, it's been a long time in coming. So I'm fairly pleased about it. I've only been at this 30 years. When I think of innovation, I'm looking at a process that is both repeatable, rigorous, and creative. And so it's really all of those things. But rather than me explaining it, I brought along a video to show folks. I think if you look at the video here, you're going to see a team that is clearly engaged in a creative process. They're working on a real problem, and I think all of us can relate to this problem. Think about what the larger problem might be behind this video. Now think about what strategy might be driving it, and we'll get back to that after the video. They also clearly have the technical talent, the capability to drive innovation, and they're not afraid to measure the results. They're not afraid to hold their innovation process up to a measuring stick, and I think that's important too. So let's look at the video. Isn't that fun?
Yeah. So how does that define innovation for you?
Well, well, the truth is, when you look at that, you see so many things that are absolutely critical to innovation. First of all, what do you think the problem was they were working on there? One of my largest clients is the American Pharmacists Association, and they have a strategy around what they call diobesity and really solving that problem. We were talking beforehand here over at the table that wouldn't it be wonderful if we put handicapped access only on every escalator and elevator in the county, you know? We really ought to think about that. So the strategy is very clear, and before anybody gets involved in innovation, you really need to think about what is your strategy. Innovation is not a strategy in and of itself unless you're the chamber and it's part of your product. But it's a tool, it's an important tool, and it's a unique tool. And it needs to be, like any other tool, properly selected and properly resourced. Every carpenter knows that. Secondly, we know that innovation is both team-based and cross-functional. You can succeed if you have a cowboy every now and then who just drives it, that champion who makes it happen. You can succeed once or twice before they burn out. But if you want sustainable innovation year after year after year, you're going to need to make it company-wide. And I've worked with S.C. Johnson for nearly 15, 20 years now. Most of you know them. They're working on their fourth generation of owners right now. They're looking on what innovations are going to keep the fifth generation of owners profitable and well kept. So do we have a multifunctional, cross-functional team? Next, do you have an agreed-to process in your organization that can be both measured and improved? That's right out of quality, folks. You know, if you don't throw a process out there, agree to the process you're going to have, if you don't make it measurable so that you can improve it time after time after time, you're not going to get there. That's awfully, awfully important. I might also say that it needs to be both fact-based and creative. It's not one or the other. It's both of those things. Finally, the keynote of innovation that I'd like to point out is when I've worked with teams, the teams that seem to succeed are ones that are truly devoted, almost a slave-like devotion to their customers' well-being. They really get deeply connected to their customer. And by the way, they understand that big fish, little fish poster pretty well. The innovation team isn't thinking so much about the little fish. They're thinking about the big fish in the customer's pond. They're looking out and around, and they're saying, gosh, is there a way I can help where the customer is going to be? Not where they are today so much, but if it's going to take me 1, 2, 3 years to get this out, to go through an innovation process, I need to be where the customer is going to be. And so are you thinking about your customer, not just what they're asking you for today, but what you know they're going to need tomorrow? That's the innovation story that needs to be told. By the way, I think the Chamber can be incredibly important in telling this story. There's just so much work to be done in innovation in this country. I spend a lot of time in China, folks. I'd much rather spend it here.
And we'd much rather keep them here and focused on how we can benefit our community. So.
But by the way, I want to also point out, go on that trip. If you haven't been to China, this is your chance. You really ought to know what's going on in China. If not you, then the younger members in your organization. There's really important stuff happening there. And
Chris,
we all
thank
need
you. Thank you very much for coming in and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Tom, before we go, I've got something for you.
Yes, sir.
This is a picture of Grouper's Revenge. It's by Michael Combe. It's an original print. I hope you put it up in your office because there might be some big fish in your pond, too.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I believe that's my board of directors there.